interracial relation. No,
Interfaith.
interfaith.
Mm-hmm.
So used to that interracial stuff. Interfaith relationships. So what are the statistics on that?
Okay. So the statistics for the interfaith relationship is that people that are older, that means who are getting married around 36 to 45, you
Mm-hmm.
have about 67% of people who marry out of their faith. And then people that are younger, so people that got married before 25, you only have 48% that usually marry out of their faith. And then the in between age, which is 26 to 35, you have about 58% of people who marry out of their faith. And based on these statistics, what I'm seeing is a pattern where I feel like as you get older, your choices are probably getting a little bit lower. So so I think people are more likely to look at a partner that's like out of their faith.
Mm.
And like you were confusing earlier, but between like interracial and interfaith, no one really talks about interfaith. And in the article, I was reading about how people, even before they were getting married, they don't seriously talk about interfaith and like whether when they get married and have kids, if it's going to be like, if the kid's going to have to follow the mother's religion or the father's religion. So, and in the article, they were stating about how usually when one person is more religious than the other, then they start being unhappy about their partner not being the same faith and their kids not always getting the chance to like participate fully in one religion. And they also talked about how sometimes with interfaith couples, you have people that change their faith to fit their partner's faith, and those tend to be a little bit more happier because then they're all like one like big just the same religion. But so basically the article talks about how there is like a lot more divorce that happens just because people do tend to be a little bit unhappy when they don't have the same faith. But um but at the same time, it's not like a complete negative thing, because as long as both the parents have the same values, I think values are more outweigh the faith, as long as you're not super religious. uh Interfaith only becomes a problem if you have one partner being overly religious.
Mm.
So opinions, Harika.
I think that's true too. Mainly what I think is true is what you said. I think as people get older, their choices go down. So I think that is part of how I feel like that's just how people work through that. And also, I think more than it being interfaith or interreligion, if I feel like, okay, let me start over. For interfaith, I feel like more than um, just having someone that's within your faith and all religion. I think just acknowledging the fact that everyone's faith and their religion is their personal choice is something that can help in making it all work. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's more important than deciding which faith to follow or which religion to practice or not. I think it's just knowing that everyone has their own opinions and their own faiths that they believe in is more important.
But then the problem becomes it's not the parents that are fighting between the religion. The problem comes in when you have children, and then you have like the choice of like which religion are you now going to teach your children.
I think, I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak for everyone, but I mean, just putting myself in that position, I think I would choose something. I would want kids to be open to everything, and then for them to decide once they, reach that level of thinking and maturity. I think it's just, in my opinion, it's good to have those everything laid out in front of them and them being able to choose once they reach a certain age on what they want to believe in, what they choose to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say
So I
the
think
fastest growing faith in or religion in America today is actually atheism.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be growing a lot. In fact, before we did the broadcast, there was a young lady in the military. I was trying to get her to be a part of the conversation. She's actually a PK, a preacher's kid,
Uh-huh.
and it was interesting because she was dating a gentleman that was an atheist, and
Mhm.
great chemistry. In fact, she was engaged, all that, with someone else. Once they broke up, she started to go out with this person again. That was the atheist.
Mhm.
Everything is great until they have conversations about religion, and she just couldn't deal with it. Do you
Mhm.
feel that at the end of the day, that's just a tie? I guess a tiebreaker when it comes to faith.
Um, I think it becomes a tiebreaker based on how strictly someone follows their religion.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, this weekend I went home for like a religious thing. Like we were celebrating a Hindu festival. So, I mean, being that all of my family members are Hindus, it was much easier to be part of the festival
Mm-hmm.
than if we had like interfaith and like, like if my uncle wasn't Hindu or something, I think it would have been a little different. But since all my family members were Hindus, like we got to celebrate it together. So I feel like in that sense, like religion does play a role. Like I don't necessarily consider myself to be a Hindu, but I still wanted to be part of the family event. So I think it becomes a tiebreaker if you do consider your religion to be very important and if you do want to practice all the stuff that comes along with your religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it doesn't become a tiebreaker if you have a partner who's willing to convert to your religion. Because you always, I feel like I've seen a lot of Jewish men who usually expect whoever they're dating to convert. So that's personally what I've seen. But I don't know. What about you, Harika?
I think it depends on person. I think, as you said, if a person just feels themselves to be very religious and very in tune with their faith, then it does become a problem because I don't think it'll be easy for someone else to accept that um, what other what they've been taught or what they believe in isn't true or whatever it may be the reason. I think it can be a tiebreaker, but it also depends on the person itself. I think it just goes back to that. And it if a person, I feel like I'm not that religious or I'm not that yeah, I feel like if it's with people like me that aren't too religious or practice anything, then I think it won't matter that much. But I think if a person is fully believing in their faith and they're strong about it, then I think it does matter. It might end up being a tiebreaker.
And I think as long as your partner is like slightly more like an atheist or someone that doesn't really strictly follow religions, I think at that point, I don't think the partner is going to care much if you are religious. As long as you're not, I feel like as long as you're not like forcing things on your partner, I don't think it should really be an issue.
Now, what about the
Right. I don't.
phrase like evenly yoked? A lot of people talk about that because your political views and your religious views will kind of determine, not kind of, it will determine how you raise your children. They say that one of the reasons, the top reasons for people getting divorced, miscommunication, how to raise your children,
Mm-hmm.
money, and sex.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the list is money, sex, and how to raise your children. And
Mm-hmm.
your ideals in reference to those topics usually would come from your religious beliefs, your faith beliefs. So
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of it, it would make sense to try to find a close match as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. I mean, if you go from atheist to a very strong practicing Jewish person, I mean that would be kind of extreme. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, so I don't know that's something that probably would cause a lot of problems. I mean, wouldn't you think?
I think it would, and like you said earlier, with the whole have to raise your children, that tends to be the problem.
Mm.
And even in the article I read, it talked about how people do get married, and when they before they get married, they don't talk about what faith they're gonna possibly be raising their children, and sometimes even marriage becomes like the issue because it's like, are we going to have like the whole God like come into like the ceremony, and if we are
Mm-hmm.
like whose faith are we going to follow for that?
Right.
So, and I think that's just a matter of miscommunication, and then like I think the fact that more interfaith people getting divorced might just have to deal with that. They're not communicating before marriage, and then I think it just becomes an issue after marriage.
That's because in the beginning of a relationship, they're just trying to get it on. So none of that stuff means anything.
That's true. In
It
the
is what it
beginning,
is.
yeah, I mean, in the start of the relationship, you're not gonna be like, oh, so by the way, if we have kids, whose faith are we gonna follow? I don't think that's really a question you would ever ask a person that you're just dating.
Right. Well, some
So,
people do. Some people do. I mean, I've done blood tests, um, spelling bee, things. It's crazy. Crossword puzzles. I've had some interesting first dates.
you've
Definitely.
had to jump a lot of hoops if that's the case.
Yeah. Some of
I
those
mean,
hoops are
maybe it's
worth it.
better to put in all those hoops before you even start dating the person, so that way you don't run into this issue later on.
Actually, while we're in Philly, we met some youth,
Mm-hmm.
and we asked them about race and religion. So here's a clip of what they said. All right, so as a generation, do you think that like back in the day, race was like a huge issue as far as dating and stuff? Do you think race is still an issue at all when it comes to dating?
Not for
Not for me.
Listen, if it was, then I'd have a problem.
I don't think it's a big issue, but obviously to others
For
still
some
is.
people.
Nah, not to me too much. I got a black girlfriend myself.
Not really.
Now, what about religion? Do you think religion still holds a big ticket on who people are going to date or not?
Maybe.
Yeah, probably. I haven't seen it too much though.
Okay.
Definitely, religion's a big problem to others.
Okay. So why is that? Why is religion? You think race seems to be going away, but why is religion holding on so tight?
Because it's people's beliefs, and no matter what you say, it's their beliefs. You're going to shake somebody off of something that they believe in. No matter how dumb and stupid it is, to them, it's gold.
Yourself, miss?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's
That
not
is our bus.
For real, all right, for me, it's not a big
We're
deal
good.
with religion. I think for some people, it's more with race, like, because I have friends, not me, but my friends. They have to deal with like their parents not liking their partner's race or whatever.
Okay. All right, cool.
Honestly, I ain't got a problem. I don't got no problem with nobody else's religion. As long as you shut up. As long as you ain't saying praise the devil, then me and you cool.
That was awesome. At the end of the clip, the gentleman said, "As long as you're not saying praise the devil, we cool. You could date me," which also is another religion. We won't go into that. We're gonna switch gears.